we're going to move to part 3. This is IP in licensing transactions. Okay. Now, in prior presentations, we talked about this health monitor that Nuco developed. All right. I won't read through everything, but the point I want you to see is just remember the slide where we applied all of our IP rights to this particular example. You've got your patent rights in place now, our patent applications that are pending, your trademarks are registered, you've at least identified what your copyrights are, and maybe you have registered them with the Copyright Office. It's not necessary. But you've also identified what your trade secrets are. And there's some value in documenting what that is, and you've done that, and you're ready. Okay, we've implemented our IP strategy. So let's look at how IP typically works. You can think of the new device market. The circle could represent the total sales or revenue that you would expect from distributing your product or service. Okay, it's not necessarily the total market because you may not capture the total market. Maybe your target, if the total market for a widget X is $1 billion, maybe your reasonable plan is to capture 20% of that. All right. So this is really about that target market that you're trying to capture. And if you have filed for your patents, documented your trade secrets, you have all your agreements in order, then as third parties come in and encroach, the idea of IP is to keep them out of the market. Okay. It's to remove third parties from taking that revenue from you. So if your IP is working in the way that it should to eject third parties from the market, this is at least maintaining your top line. Okay, this is protecting the revenue that you've been working hard to generate. All right. Now, it's easy to say that, but how does that happen in practice? Okay, and there's a couple of things that really go into this. Deterrent effect of IP rights. As I said earlier, most of my clients don't really want to infringe third-party IP rights. Sometimes their implementations have to, and we address that risk. But generally, you want to do something that's unique and different from what your competitors are doing, or you've done something that is unique in creating a new business model. In any event, IP rights do have a deterrent effect. We look at them. We do freedom to operate studies. We advise our clients on how to change a product to avoid IP infringement. Commercial practices we'll get into in a little bit more. This is really about the transactions that you have with your customers and your vendors. And then of course the threat or the actual instigation of litigation. It's not one of these things creates the ability for you to expel third parties from your market. It's really a combination of these things. Okay, if you need to take steps to litigate your IP, then that's a tool. It's not the ends. It literally is a tool that you can use and should be looked at in that way. So let's look at if IP is working the way it ought to, and generally it does, how do you extract revenue from third parties that want to enter your market? Well, this is where your licensing comes in. Let's say the third party comes in and you're like, okay, you can do X, Y, and Z, but you have to do that with payment to me on these terms. And when you don't pay me on these terms, I'm going to sue you for patent infringement and I'm going to enter an injunction. Okay? And an injunction is a powerful deterrent. Perhaps the calculation for the third party is it's going to be much cheaper for me to give the IP owner 3% of my sales than it is for me to litigate it and break all of the IP that we have around this particular product and in this market. Remember, we're not just dealing with patents. You're dealing with copyrights, you're dealing possibly with trade secrets, and to some extent trademarks, as that's indicated. Now this is an example of a non-exclusive license where you can have other parties come in. Maybe one of these is a supplier. One of these is a customer or a distributor that you work with that has another use that they see in your product and wants to sell it into a different market. The point is, as you have participants that are entering your market that is covered by your IP, you're generating revenue. You're generating top line growth and certainly bottom line growth. If, for example, you can license your IP for a different use that you didn't expect, in a lot of ways, that's just money directly in the bank without a big outlay of capital. It's an unexpected benefit. So again, how does this work? Business transactions, supplier agreements, customer agreements, joint ventures, how you engage the different participants within your market, within your industry, merger and or acquisition. It's not uncommon for a smaller company that has a pretty strong IP position to sue a larger company. And if the larger company feels they can't win the case, they'll just buy the smaller company. That's not necessarily a bad thing for the shareholders in that situation. But you're only in that position if you've implemented your IP strategy in sort of a robust way that's appropriate for your business. Okay. Litigation is just an extension of that. There will be a point as you grow. Success breeds copiers. Okay. If you're successful, you will be copied, and there will be a point in your path of your business cycle that you'll have to make a decision whether you want to file suit to force somebody to a negotiating table. Okay. And there's ways to go about how we approach a particular target in the litigation context. But the point is, it's a tool, it's a mechanism. Is as much expense as is associated with litigating your own IP rights, your competitor is going to have the same or more expense in defending against that. So that's not a, I don't think that's a factor that should be discounted, basically. It's a tool. Now, looking at this, another way, let's say you're that third party. And what if you don't want to pay? Well, how do you get to a point where you have a position where you don't have to pay? You essentially have to break the IP in some way, meaning your patent doesn't cover my activity, or the patent is not valid for some reason. Remember, we only owe royalties for literally infringing a valid claim of a patent. You don't have to pay royalties if you infringe an invalid claim. You just don't. There's nothing wrong with that. Prior use of a trademark. You recall trademark rights are really about use in commerce. So if somebody has used your trademark before you did, they really have superior rights. The trademark is invalid for some other reason, or you don't own the copyright because your assignments weren't in order with independent contractors or your software, for your software developers or things of that sort. Or your trade secret isn't a secret. These are all just tools that help you break the IP, so to speak, if you don't want to pay.